All right, welcome to Accessibility and Course Design Part 2. If you haven't viewed Part 1 yet, it's recommended that you view Part 1 before you view this part, but they are a sequence or a series, if you will. I am CJ Bracken. I am currently the coordinator of instructional design and LMS or Canvas administration working within CETL, or the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And today we're going to continue our discussion of accessibility and course design. So I always do begin with this slide, as it helps to demonstrate the importance of ensuring course and instructional materials are accessible. So a common question we get asked is, why should I bother to make my course materials or my course site accessible? Well, here are the top 5 reasons why you should focus on ensuring your materials are accessible. Accessible documents are portable. That means they work better across all different web browsers. We know there's really mainly 4 right now. Different computer systems, no matter whether they're on a Mac, a PC, various operating systems on a PC, or even mobile devices. It's estimated that about 4% of the population uses assistive technology. So that's roughly 3.3 million people in the US alone. It's good practice to ensure that all of our learners can equally participate and take advantage of the content, the materials, and the activities that are in our course. It helps to ensure that we meet the needs of diverse learners, because not every learner is the same. Many learners come to us that need accommodations or have different disabilities that we need to take into consideration. By ensuring that our course materials are accessible, it helps meet their needs without them having to ask specifically for us to meet their needs. Which kind of leads into the next one, that it's more efficient to create our materials to be accessible when we're creating our course or designing it, instead of waiting until we have an accommodations request and then trying to retrofit our materials, our documents, our videos, our other media. Can you imagine if you have, and this happens all the time, but sit back and imagine that, hey, you're in the middle of teaching. You're in the middle of providing content to your students, providing lectures, feedback, assessing your students, grading them. And now all of a sudden you have to go back and make your materials accessible 100% while you're in the midst of teaching, maybe not just one class, maybe 5 or 6. And providing feedback and assessing. But now you have to go back because a student has accommodation request. Whereas if you did this at the beginning and designed your course with accessibility in mind, using the information that we covered in Accessible Course Design Part 1 and this as well, you wouldn't have to do that. Okay, so it's much easier and more time efficient to do this when you're actually designing your course. And one of the biggest reasons is that accessibility to electronic documents, which is what everything is in Canvas essentially, and our website, is protected by both federal and state laws. And in recent years, there have been several high-profile and multi-million-dollar lawsuits filed against higher institutions of education. We have to also think it's not just the VCCS's responsibility. It's not just Reynolds' responsibility. It's the faculty member designing and teaching and delivering the course's responsibility to ensure our course is as accessible as possible. So let's talk about ways that we can do that as a continuation from Accessibility Part 1. So within our documents, think Word, PDFs, Google Docs, presentation, etc. And Canvas, we should focus on creating meaningful and accessible hyperlinks. We're going to cover each one of these in a little bit more detail, and then I'll show you how to implement them as well. We want to work to ensure that we're using accessible media players for our audio and video content within our course site. We want to ensure that all of our audio and video are captioned, or a transcript is provided in direct proximity to that audio and video content. If you use Canvas Studio, you'll know Canvas Studio now automatically captions all your content that's in there when you create it. You should go back and edit it to make sure, because we all know the difference in meaning just one simple comma can mean, but you got to go back and edit it. But all the automatic captioning is done for you. Use tools that enable us to ensure the accessibility of our materials, such as the Microsoft and Canvas accessibility checkers. I'll show you how to use those in a little bit. And then evaluate your course based on the course accessibility checklist that I've created and keep updated. And I'll give that to you as well. You'll see that at the end of this session, and should be on that document should be on our website, CETL's website. And if you don't please see it, please email cetl@reynolds.edu and request it, and we can certainly get you a copy. Links are more useful when they make sense out of context. Course designers should avoid non-informative link phrases such as click here, more, read more, link to, and then you provide a destination, or info. We've all seen these links hundreds of times within our course. To learn more about this, click here, right? Or you can learn more about this here, and that being the here or the click here being the link. Well, in fact, the phrase click here is actually unnecessary, even if it precedes a more meaningful phrase. For example, a link that says click here to access today's weather can be shortened down to today's weather, and the link should be today's weather. In some cases, it may make sense to precede a link phrase with more or read more about, such as more about global warming. But if these extra words can be avoided, it's probably best to avoid them. Global warming may convey the same meaning as more about global warming, depending on the context. Also, please try to avoid long hyperlinks as well, since screen readers will read the link name, and reading an entire URL or link address could be confusing and frustrating to students using a screen reader. So think about a couple things when you're creating your hyperlinks. They should be unique, right? They should be contextual. Right? So if you have here or click here multiple times in your course, that's not a unique name, right? It should be unique and it should be meaningful. Also, keep in mind that hyperlinks should be the only font that is blue and or underlined within your course site or your course materials, as students will intuitively try to click on blue text or underlined text. It's important to make sure that both blue and underlined font are only used. So don't use underlined font unless it's a hyperlink. Don't use blue font unless it's a hyperlink. And certainly don't use blue and underlined font unless it's a hyperlink. So let's take a look at a few examples here and how they can be corrected as well as the issue, so you kind of get an idea of where we're going here. So on the left-hand side, you can see the original. Use these search engines for your research. To use Google, click here. To use Bing, click here. Well, as I said before, these titles are not unique. It doesn't tell the student or the learner or the user where they're going when they click the link. So you can shorten this down and say, use these search engines for your research, and make Google and Bing the actual hyperlinks that takes them to Google and to Bing. In the middle row, you have a long URL. The hyperlink is too long. It's not contextual. Imagine being a student using a screen reader. What you would hear is https://www.lifewire.com/firefox-4781475. So how's that really contextual to the student, right? They may be able to depict where they're going from that. They may not, but they're certainly not going to be able to remember it. So it's an easy fix again. We can simply say, how to use the Mozilla Firefox browser, and make Mozilla Firefox the actual link. And then we also have website 1, website 2. Well, the links aren't descriptive. The student has no idea where they're going when they're clicking on these links. So we can correct that by websites Firefox and Chrome. Gives a little bit of context to where the students would go when they are actually clicking on those links. So we mentioned Accessible Media Player as well. Well, all media content that's audio, video, and animations must have playback controls, and to include pause, fast forward, rewind, a playback speed control such as slow the speed of the video and audio down or speed it up. They also need to be keyboard accessible controls, meaning you don't have to use the mouse. You can actually use your keyboard to engage or disengage those controls. In addition, the media should never be set to auto loop, which means it plays over and over again without some sort of user intervention. While this is certainly necessary, please keep in mind if you use Studio, the recommended format for all videos within Canvas, you're not going to have to worry about any accessible media player. The Studio's player is accessible and gives you all these controls immediately. Also notice that in the controls, we must provide students the ability to make the video full screen or to make it smaller as well without any distortion or pixelation. It still needs to be viewable. All multimedia, again, audio, video, any animation that is instructional value as well, must have some sort of captioning or a transcript that provides equivalent text-based alternatives to that media. Now, YouTube and Studio provide captioning, but the captions must be reviewed for accuracy. If you use YouTube and, as AI gets stronger and better with time, the captioning gets better with time, but YouTube, through their own documentation, is about 65% accurate. Not bad, but if you compare that to Studio, which is about 85% accurate, and I personally have seen Studio grow since we have Canvas become more and more accurate, Studio provides much more value for me as an instructor because you're talking about 20% difference in accuracy. There's a whole lot less time that I have to spend editing my captions. So keep that in mind. You must also provide a transcript if you don't have captioning, and that transcript must be in immediate proximity to that video or audio content. You can't say, see the transcript at the bottom of the page. No, it must be immediately to the left, right, top, bottom, etc. Make sure you do check your captioning and your transcript for grammar. As I noted earlier, we've all seen the difference in meaning that one little comma can make. Check for accuracy, misspellings. I know a lot of times it misspells my last name. It also, Studio sometimes misspells Reynolds. I guess it's probably how I speak in my accent, so some people have had success. So just check for that. Once you start using Studio over and over, I use it at least a couple times a week. At the very minimum, I put video announcements in every course that I teach, just to help engage with my students a little bit. But you'll get used to what mistakes it does make, and it'll become quicker and quicker to edit that media. And remember, these are not options or nice to haves. Captioning is 100% required for all media. A lot of times when I'm reviewing courses, not just at Reynolds, everywhere, I tell the subject matter expert, the designer, the faculty member, hey, you don't have captioning for this video. Oh, well, yeah, because that video creator didn't caption it. Well, it's still, if you're going to use it in your course, you must provide captioning or a transcript. So you have a couple of options there. One, you can reach out to the owner of video if you can find out who they are and ask them for a script. Most of the times they do have a script. 90% of the time, I've been very successful in saying, hey, I'm going to be using your material in this course that I'm teaching. Do you have a transcript? And they'll give it to you. No problem, because they want their content out there. They created it to share. You could also search for another video that does have captioning that covers the same content. Or you could create one if need be. But remember, I'm a huge believer in curating versus creating, because creating takes a lot more time, but it's always your option. Most people don't realize that Microsoft and Canvas both have built-in accessibility checkers that'll check your content, instructional materials, etc., for accessibility issues. In Word, the accessibility checker finds accessibility problems and lists suggestions, or you can find specific tips for making your content accessible for all Microsoft's main applications, including Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and OneNote. Yes, the accessibility checker is even available for Mac users. In Microsoft's accessibility checker, the findings display is either errors, warnings, or tips. An error is when the checker finds content that makes the document difficult or impossible to read and understand for people with disabilities. A warning is when the accessibility checker finds content that in most, but not necessarily all, cases makes the document difficult to understand for people with disabilities. And a tip is when content that people with disabilities can understand that, but it could be presented in a different way to improve the user's experience. I recommend that you certainly correct all errors and warnings at a minimum to ensure accessibility for all your materials, and then review the tips. and then see what you can do to make it a little bit better. There are two current limitations with the Microsoft Accessibility Checker, which are color, right? Information is conveyed using color alone, right? Meaning, you are using color alone to convey meaning. It's not really good at picking that up yet. It's really no way to pick that up because it has to check on the text, the pictures, etc., the media. It doesn't know what you're trying to convey. So keep in mind you should not use color alone to convey meaning. And then also, if you have any sort of captioning or a transcript to accompany some sort of media, the accessibility checker will report that closed captions are missing. But if your video already has in-band captions or open captions or has no dialogue, then there might be no accessibility issues found with the video. And on top of that, it can't check the accuracy of captions. Like Microsoft, Canvas also provides an accessibility checker. The accessibility checker is an extremely powerful tool within Canvas's rich content editor that allows you to run a quick accessibility test on content you've created with the editor, including text, images, and hyperlinks. Anywhere the rich content editor is found, such as when you're creating a Canvas page, an assignment, a discussion, or anything of the like, the accessibility checker will appear in the toolbar, normally at the bottom on the right, below the rich content editor. You can see what it looks like here on the screen. And you can catch common errors that make web content difficult to access for users with disability. And then it allows you to easily correct these errors as well before you save and publish your content, page, assignment, etc. Once you have entered content into the rich content editor, just click the accessibility checker icon. Again, shown here on the screen, it's just a circle with a little person there. If you see the number 1 like it has there, it means it found 1 issue. If there's a 2, found 2 issues, and so on. Now, please keep in mind that this feature is continually being built out in Canvas. So when it first came out, it really only checked for missing alternative text on images. Now it's checking for a little bit more, such as contrast, as well as missing alt text. And it's got a few other features it has built into it now, but Canvas is building this out as the technology becomes available. But please know, even though it's pretty robust, and it does pick up on inadequate contrast, as we'll show in a few minutes, it is continually being developed, and it cannot guarantee that your content is 100% accessible. So how do we do that? Well, we use the course accessibility checklist that I've created for our faculty. And again, it's on CETL's website, and I'll show it to you in just a few minutes. But this should be used for every single course that you create. It's just a simple checklist. And it says, do you have, for example, alternative text for all images, charts, tables, graphs? And it explains alternative text. So you say yes, no, or NA, because if you don't have any images, charts, tables, graphs in your course, you select NA. But if you say, oh, I do have an image, chart, table, or graph, but I don't think I have alternative text for this image, I don't know how to put it in Word. Well, it's going to give you a tutorial on how to put that alternative text for an image when you're using Word. Or I don't know how to do it in Canvas. It's going to give you a tutorial for that. So it's going to give you tips and tutorials as well as you go through. All right. So now let's take everything that we just went over, which is great to hear and great to learn about, and how do we actually do this and how do we put it into practice in our courses? That's the key, because if we only know the theory and we don't understand the practice, does us no good. So let me close out that presentation, and I'm going to share another window with you all in 1 second. I'm just going to share my whole screen, and we're going to go here. All right, so this is a Canvas course site. It's just my test site. I'm in a page. I'm editing this page. The page just happens to be titled Accessibility in Action for My Own Knowledge. Now, as a quick recap from Accessibility 1, we know that the text welcome module level objectives, instructional materials, readings, videos, etc. are headers, right? In Canvas, the title of the page is automatically the header 1, right? Canvas does that. We have no option or way to change that, and that's the way it should be. But these other headers are subheadings on this page. So they should be labeled as a heading level 2, okay? And the quick way to do that again is you just highlight the text right here, paragraph, put it on heading level 2. You can still change the size, the bold, italics, and the color, right? Module level objectives is a heading level 2. I'm not going to change all the font colors and stuff right now just because time constraint. Instructional materials should be a heading level 2. And then readings and videos fall under the subheading instructional materials, so they should be labeled as a heading level 3. Okay. All right, so now we have appropriate headings, and we have an image right here. This is just an actual image. So now, as you know, there's a couple issues here, and our little accessibility checker down here says there's 2 issues. We can click on it, and it's going to tell us that 1, the contrast is not good here with welcome, because I have pretty good vision and I can barely see it. I couldn't imagine a student who either has some sort of color blindness disability or who has very poor vision. It'd be very difficult for them to read, especially if it's more than just a header and it's a bunch of text. And then it's also probably because I didn't put an alternative text or alternate text on this image here. Okay, so we can do one thing. I can correct these myself, and if I do this, you'll see we'll bring this to black. Now notice it went to 1. There's only 1 issue, but let's put it back to yellow. Okay, now it's going to go to 2 again. And now let's click on this just so you can see what happens. It's going to tell me right here, change the text color. Okay. Text larger than 18 points should display a minimum contrast ratio of 3:1. Okay, so we can change, so we can say, okay, let's look at, do we want blue? No, we never want blue, right? But we could do a dark red maybe, just for ease. So, well, it's not going to let me apply that. So we'll get back to that one in a minute. We'll change the text manually. Click next. Here's an important thing to consider. I do technically have an alternative text in this image, but that alt text is headings.png, right? That's the file name of that image. And as it says right here, image file name should not be used as the alt attribute describing the image content. Because if a student can't see that image and they're using screen readers, does headlines or headings.png, does that tell the student what's in that image? No, it doesn't. So we have a couple of options. We can change our alt text, and we can just type it right in here, such as the various headings within the rich content editor of Canvas, including paragraph, normal, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, or heading 6. That would be a good short alternative text, because remember, your alt text should be rather short. Most of the time, 1 or 2 short sentences is all that's needed. If it's longer than that, I would recommend that you put a caption in immediate proximity to that image. Or we could say, hey, this is providing no instructional value. It's just purely a decorative image. We can do that by clicking decorative image. Okay. Now let's close this out and look at how we can do these things when we're designing the course. So we know, okay, this needs to be changed. We'll make that a dark red. You can use red. Well, didn't take many times people tell me, CJ, you can't use a dark red. And I'm like, why can't I? Well, because people who have a red-green issue with color blindness. Well, that's okay. As long as that font being red doesn't convey any meaning, right? Because if they see it as gray or black instead of red, does that change the meaning of the word welcome? No. Now, if I was highlighting key words in red font that they need to focus in on the meaning of those, then yes, I can't use red. Then I could still use red, but I would also have to use another indicator such as bold or italics to draw attention to those words. Now, if we come down here to the image, click on the image, you'll notice that an image options button comes up. If you click that, that's going to allow you to enter in your alt text, right? So I could put that alt text that I said, heading styles in the rich content editor of Canvas, showing paragraph normal, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, heading 6. Or let's say it's decorative. I can just choose that it's decorative. Decorative means no instructional value whatsoever. Now, you can't take the easy way out and just label all images in your course as decorative unless they're purely decorative. Again, meaning no instructional value is provided by those images, just to pretty up your page, if you will. So make sure you don't do that as a scapegoat. All right, click done. Now you see I fixed both of those issues. So the accessibility checker, I don't have any. If I click on it, it'll give me some balloons and tell me that, hey, we didn't detect any issues. So that's how to use the accessibility checker in Canvas. And as you build out your pages, assignments, discussions, etc., it will check these and give you a 1, 2, or however many issues there are. So now let's transition from Canvas and let's transition into Word so you can see how to do certain things in Word and how to use the accessibility checker in Word. So let me go over here to a document I have. Kind of the same thing, right? I have a title, some subheadings, and an image, okay? So again, remember, and this is a common mistake I see, all documents in your course need to be properly structured with heading style. So as a review from part 1, this is the title. Learning resources is the title. So I come up here and I can either label it a heading 1 or a title. I'm just going to label it a title. Now, again, I can modify any of these as I want just by right-clicking and go to modify, okay? So I'm not stuck with the font style, size, etc. These are all subheadings, right? So heading level 2, do 2, 2, 2, and 2. But if you remember what I said during a little presentation is we shouldn't have any blue font that aren't hyperlinks, and these aren't hyperlinks. So I need to modify heading level 2. Right-click, go into modify, and I'll just take it and I'll make it black. Say okay. Now look, all the headings that I already said were heading level 2s, they all automatically updated to black font. I didn't have to do each one individual, okay? But let's say, I'm going to put this back to yellow just for our things. And then we have our image, right? Which I did not put any alternative text in there. So let's see what the Microsoft Accessibility Checker tells us. So to get that, you just click on File. Right here it says check for issues, and it might be a little bit different when you're using a Mac. And then you come down here and you click check accessibility. So it's going to give me the error. Remember, errors, tips, and warnings, but it only gives me one error, missing alt text for picture 1, which is if I click picture 1, it will highlight it and it'll tell me why I should fix it and how to fix it, okay? But notice what it didn't bring up. It didn't bring up this text that is in light or a very light contrast, because as I said before, these accessibility checkers are kind of still in their infancy. So they're being built out over time. And I'm sure it's better when we get to newer versions, but I think we're on Word 2016 right now. But these are things that you have to remember to keep in mind. So I'll just change that to black now. I'm good. Now for an alt text, I could have gone through the Word tutorial that I showed you on how to fix, or I can just show you how to do it as well. Click on it, right-click, go into Format Picture. We click on the Layout and Properties, and then we go to Alt Text. And you notice there's a title and a description. Don't put your alternative text in a title box. That is where if you hover your mouse over the picture, a little text comes up, that flyover message, that's not alternative text. You want to put your alternative text in the description. Again, 1 to 2 short sentences at most. And if it's longer than that, you need to provide a caption, right in immediate proximity to the image. Now, Word doesn't have, if you notice, a decorative checkbox like Canvas does. So if this is decorative, you would then use what's called the null alt text, and you just simply put a quote, a single space, and then quote. Okay, that's the null alt text. That's marking it for decorative purposes only. Basically, the screen reader gives it a short pause and keeps going. I said this in part 1 as well, but it's worth repeating. Please do not put image of, picture of, graphic of. If it's a table, table of. the screen reader will automatically know that and will tell the user. So we don't want it redundant. So just type what it's about. So here, an accurate alt text description could simply be Canvas logo. Okay. That's all we need. I don't need to see picture of Canvas logo or image of Canvas logo. Okay. So keep that in mind. All right. So simple enough to check your documents, right? And just make sure the biggest things I see are captioning. Again, Studio will automatically do your captions for you. So let's go into Studio for a minute. Come over here, click on Studio. You're going to see a whole bunch of videos because I use Studio quite extensively. So here are all my videos, tons of them. Now I can organize them a little bit better into collections. You can think of a collection as a folder and then each video as a file kind of. But once you have your video, you can click View and then you go to Captions. Now, notice this says not published because I haven't gone in there, reviewed, and published them. Okay. So after you create your video, give it some time depending on the length. It may take some time for Canvas Studio to automatically generate those captions. Come back in, click on your video, go here, and click Review and Publish. So now I can review my entire captions. This was done automatically, right? Not by me. Canvas Studio did it. So as we move into Module 9, the last module, this course will take some time to reflect on what we have learned in this last learning unit. So there might be some things, maybe I want this to be a 9, right? So I can click on that, come down here and just put 9 for the number 9. Once I'm done editing it all, I just click on publish. Now my captions are done. It's a whole lot easier. So you no longer have to go back in like you used to, click on your video, request captions, tell it it's in English, then wait, then go back in and edit them, then publish them. Now, as soon as you record your video, give it some time, come back in the studio, click on your video, come here, click on captions and come back here. Now, if you did not, you accidentally clicked publish and you didn't go through the whole thing and edit it, or you caught a mistake later, you can come back and still edit your captions again. That is totally fine. Okay. If we go back to Studio's main site, in order to record a video using Studio, it's simple. You click on create and you can do studio capture, right? Studio capture is using a webcam, Screencast-O-Matic, which is kind of grabbing or videoing the desktop, if you will, your screen, or you can add media. Maybe you recorded an MP4 video on your phone and you wanted to bring it into Studio, you can do that as well. Now notice these names also, it's kind of weird. Depends on what browser you use. It could change just a little bit. So on my Mac, they change, and also using Firefox, they change. But they're all three here and essentially the same thing. One last thing I want to show you is that course accessibility checklist I talked to you about. That's right here. That again is on the CETL website. If you can't find it, or by any chance it gets taken down accidentally, feel free to email cetl@reynolds.edu and we will be happy to send this to you. But it's a very simple checklist, right? You come down here, you can learn about making your Word documents accessible, PowerPoints accessible, creating accessible PDFs. But you come down here, you created headings for all documents and in the rich text editor. So that heading structure, title, heading 2, heading 3, etc. Did you? Yes, no, or I don't use any. Probably going to use some headings though. But if you forget how to do it, you can click on creating headings in Word, creating headings in Canvas, and it'll take you to a tutorial. You used alternative text in your course. Yes, no, not applicable. Maybe you don't have any images, charts, graphs, tables, etc. Tells you a little bit about it. Tells you the null alt text, right? And it tells you not to use image of, picture of, etc. to begin your alt text. If you forget how to add alternative text to images in Canvas or Word, right here. By the way, when I say Word, it's the same process for all Microsoft products, pretty much. Did you use color alone to convey meaning? Or color alone is not used to convey meaning, okay? Yes, no, NA. What are you talking about, CJ? Well, click this link, gives you a little bit of tutorial on that. Same thing with contrast and a contrast checker. Come down here to your hyperlinks. Hyperlinks used within the course are unique, self-describing, and have meaningful names. Remember, please stay away from things such as click here, more here, info, about. If you need some more information, you can click on accessible links and hyperlinks. Captioning, accessible media player. Remember, if you use Studio, you don't have to worry about accessible media player, full screen option, playback controls, right? You don't have to worry about all that. You can just say yes, yes, yes. Captioning, though, you still have to worry about with Studio because you need to go in and edit and publish those captions, okay, to make sure they make sense. And then page 3 of this, you don't have to worry about except for one little thing, because this we provide in all the blueprints or course shells for you when they're created. And that's that the Reynolds Institutional Accessibility Policy and Services is provided in the course site. It is. In the syllabus, there's a tab that information is provided there, as well as Office of Accommodations contact information. That's provided there. And vendor accessibility statements. So if you use McGraw-Hill Connect, if you use Cengage, if you use different products such as the automotive faculty use Electu, even Microsoft and Google Drive, right? All the accessibility statements needs to be in there for each third-party software that you're using. We've put a lot in there. However, we don't know every single piece of technology or third-party software that everybody is using. So if you go into this page and you're using Acme WidgetWorks and it's not listed, email canvas@reynolds.edu. Let us know, hey, I'm using Acme WidgetWorks. Give us their website. You don't need to give us all their information. Just give us their website and let us know, hey, it's not in the accessibility statements. And we'll put it in there and we'll update all course sites, because chances are if you're using Acme WidgetWorks, so is some other faculty member. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then if you want some additional resources, down at the bottom, you have learning about the Microsoft Word Accessibility Checker that we covered today, a little bit about Universal Design for Learning. Web AIM is a fantastic web accessibility nonprofit, and they provide a lot of good content, instructional content for making content accessible. So you can go to their Section 508 checklist. And then the W3C, or World Wide Web Consortium, they're kind of the governing body of the internet, and they have accessibility standards as well. So if you can't fall asleep and you want to read something, that's right here for you. So we kind of covered a lot of things for accessibility between accessibility part 1 and in accessibility part 2 today. Did give you some recaps here as well today. As you're working on these, if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to reach out to cedal@reynolds.edu. We can schedule some one-on-one sessions as well. We have 3 instructional designers, myself, Dev, and Kevin, as well as Bree can help out as well as her time permits if we're all busy, because Bree's an instructional designer as well, but she's got a lot more administrative duties to handle. But we can all help you, and we're all willing to help you in the course design process. The idea here is to make sure that our courses are accessible because it is required by law. And more importantly than that, it helps meet all of our students' diverse learning needs and provide students who need accommodations with those accommodations. Again, if you have any questions, please feel reach out to us at cedal@reynolds.edu. If you have any Canvas specific questions, feel free to reach out to us at canvas@reynolds.edu. I hope everybody has a great day.